All right, we're back with more NBA coverage. In this one, I'm covering the action that I tuned into on Friday and Saturday. So to get straight into it, we have the Heat Knicks for the NBA Cup on Friday and on Prime first. And going back into the content in the last video and following the progression here, the Knicks were definitely looking to get back right after getting blown out by 17 points to the Magic at home. Very much outside of their character. They knew that they would have to right the ship almost immediately, and it would be proven to be difficult without a few essential players here for a lot of time. But they were going to have to find a way to make it happen. Now, the Heat are an interesting team to this point in the season. They've actually been doing relatively well compared to how that entire season was last year. You don't have Jimmy Butler to worry about right now. That entire situation was just... it set them back for quite some time. You come in with a kind of clean slate, to be honest. And they've implemented a lot of new things, most importantly, what Bam Adebayo mentioned on one of the previous pregame shows leading up to a Heat game. The fact that their offense is so quick. They are actually one of the highest teams in the NBA in terms of their rate of pace down the court and their denial of any real ball screen action in terms of pick and rolls and stuff of that nature. They don't do it a ton. And it leads to a lot of good looks more often than not. You kind of saw bits and pieces of that to start this game off. Although, no Bam Adebayo in this one. He's dealing with an injury. And of course, Tyler Hero is still out with an injury of his own. But they had players step up. Davion Mitchell continues to be interesting as well. Like the fact that he's emerged as somewhat of a playmaker when he was legitimately known for his defense only as a Sacramento King. It's pretty wild to see. And he's got this team, even in the absence of their main playmakers, performing relatively well this year. You got some good contributions early on. Pelle Lawson was all over the place to start this game off as the Heat belted out to an early lead. The only thing that would begin to derail them would be, Karl Anthony Towns. Kind of had a dud of a performance in the last one. Whether it be through some lucky instances or just pure skill, bully ball, he was getting buckets. They couldn't stop him. He exploited some mismatches earlier on, and on a few buckets, I'm kind of like, why don't you do that sooner? You have the clear mismatch. It'd make a lot of sense for you to just back him down, but the ball just seemed to continuously find him, and shots continued to go in for the man. At a point, really weird sequence would go down later on in the first quarter. You had Mikal Bridges off a clear fast break opportunity. He gets out in space and he manages to smoke the fucking layup. But then, a possession later or so, Karl Anthony Towns himself loses a basketball and it almost becomes a turnover, manages to get the ball back in the corner, denies any other assist opportunity at all, chucks up the shot, and it goes in from the corner. The fact that the man had 16 points in the first quarter tells you a lot. It doesn't tell you everything, but it tells you a lot. If he's getting a sequence like that to go, seriously, it's his kind of night right now. But the Heat were still able to edge out the Knicks in this one. I just can't stop thinking about, like, Mikal Bridges, before all that even goes down, it's like, how does he smoke a dunk? He goes up for it with two hands, and he smokes it. Nobody else is on him. It ended up being inconsequential, but that kind of thing is just a little embarrassing to me. I'm not going to lie. The Knicks were also able in this to truly get a lot out of Landry Shamet, and that would happen progressively as the game continued in the weirdest way imaginable. But he would get himself a few buckets to start, getting within the flow of the game early on. Jordan Clarkson got an extensive amount of playing time. I guess I wasn't too keen on when exactly Mikal Bridges went out of this game. But between Jordan Clarkson and Jaime Jaquez Jr. for the Heat, the battle of the six men was a very valiant one, to say the least. Jordan Clarkson, you know what time it is with the man. Okay, he's not, once the ball gets in his hands, he's going to do whatever it is he can to try to score. Very rarely do you see the man willingly pass the basketball. And while he would call his own shot a few times, there were situations where he would defer because Karl Anthony Towns was just that hot from the floor. And he just kept on firing up shot after shot after shot. And he was out there for a pretty extensive time in the second quarter. As for Jaime Jaquez Jr., he kind of operated a little differently. I mean, like I said, A.J. Mitchell is technically not a six-man because he's starting, but Jaime Jaquez Jr., as Van Gundy would say, he is a prime candidate for six-man of the year, dude. Norm Powell's a different story. But Jaime Jaquez Jr. still, in his time, he is genuinely the leader of that second unit. And to have him as a point forward, barrel in the paint, set the tone for the offense, and drive the pace home, it did allow the Heat to be in the running offensively, I should say. Just all around. He's grabbing, or at least being as aggressive as he possibly could, getting some good looks, and generating great looks for other teammates. That's the way you have to do it. Now, we mentioned all these different things about their pace and everything, but at multiple points, especially as this second quarter started to come to a close, and as we got later and later into the game, there is such a thing as moving too fast. And the Heat found themselves in that situation too many times to count. For example, the denial of all those off-ball, well, not even off-ball screens per se, but pick and roll action, things of that nature, is going to keep everybody spaced out because you're having essentially all five guys somewhere near the perimeter, right? They're trying to drive inside to force a collapse and generate open looks from the three-point line in these situations. But what happens when those defenders stay laser tight in terms of guarding these guys? Well, now they're forced to take up contested shots at the rim. And a number of these shots, even from Jaime Jaquez Jr., some of them were just terrible, terrible takes. Like, it got to a point where they were so stubborn about it, they were just forcing up these shots. And it's like, no, the pressure is there. The resistance is there. There's nothing you can do about it. And that got them into a little bit of a rut for stretches of this time. Like, the Knicks during this point were able to go on a 17-6 run, even with a little bit of Knicks, I guess, kind of regression on the defensive end at points. Then, in another aspect here, second chance opportunities and defensive rebounds. Just, They, without having extra bodies in the paint, just allowed the Knicks, one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the NBA, to completely eat up the glass. Even when you thought second chance opportunities were possible, Knicks put a stop to it instantly. And on the flip side, the Heat themselves found very difficult to last in terms of dealing with Mitchell Robinson and other guys. Like, you had even smaller guys securing rebounds simply because of proximity. Like, and when it comes down to it, the fact that this game ended up being close towards the tail end, it's not to say that the Heat are a bad offense at all. They're definitely not. But you need much better action in the restricted area when it comes to being aggressive. Because the Knicks, that is their identity. They're not a team that's always going to be outscoring people, but you have to be able to control the glass in order to compete with them. And if you can't do that, you're just asking for a dogfight. I mean, still, if you showed up for the game, you got your money's worth. I mean, high scoring half. Knicks had 78 points at this halftime period. And Karl-Anthony Towns, with the fact that they themselves, the Heat, knowing that he was high and still just disregarding what he was doing, they still allowed him to have a great second quarter as well, just compounding on what the hell he was already doing. And he had 31 points. Not only did it end up making him the sixth Knick all-time with multiple 30-point halves in the play-by-play era, he also became the player with the fourth most out of any Knick in the first half. He's had those kinds of tears before. And you would want him to keep riding high on that if you are a Knick. The Heat were going to have to sell out to stop him. That's exactly what happened. They chipped away minimally at the game as they themselves started to pick it back up offensively. But Karl-Anthony Towns, when it came to his second half contributions, he definitely cooled down a ton. The Heat were coming for him, man. Jaime Jaquez Jr. and Norm Powell were definitely leading the way in that aspect, and you were still getting some good contributions from other wings like Lawson, like Wiggins, etc. However, in selling out to guard up Karl-Anthony Towns, they didn't account for Landry Shamet. And frankly, nobody fucking did. Not only did you have this man actually being consistent at doing what he does as a sharpshooter, this man was taking people off the fucking dribble and putting up shots at the cup. This is Landry Shamet we're talking about. And at a point, you had him and Norm Powell going at it with each other. He was taking him straight into the lane. And they were going bucket for bucket with each other? I don't think anybody saw that coming. They couldn't guard Landry Shamet. This was still a close game, by the way. But as these shots just piled on, he even drew an and one, for crying out loud. The Knicks still had the lead. They were within as much as 2, but the Heat could not get that knockout punch to take it back. They just couldn't. As not only did you have Shamet put up 15 third quarter points in this period, but you also had Jordan Clark continuing to do his own great work off the bench. And as we got to a point in the fourth quarter, I should say, Landry Shamet was continuing to carve them up, and he and Clarkson became the first pair of Knicks players off the bench since Derrick Rose and Emmanuel Quickley in 2021 to each have 20 or more points. All of that happening in what was a 12-4 run at the time for the Knicks. Like, it was just getting out of hand, man. This is a stretch, yet again, where offensively the Heat just sputtered. You know, they settled for all these just weird shots at the rim, and even in cases where they were able to control the rebound somehow, the takes were just still unorthodox, still altered by elite defensive pressure from the Knicks. And the distance just continued to increase from there. Like, Landry Shamet was out here heat checking and dunking on people. Like, you can't make this up. You can't, bro. Like I literally said in my notes right here, by this point, Landry Shamet had over 35, and the game was decided by over 10 points. I literally say this in my notes. In order to make this close, they're going to need a flurry of threes. They did start to get a flurry of buckets, but again, they were too far, it was too far gone, man. They could not outpace this Knicks team in this game. Like, yes, they were still able to get out and run at times, but again, losing that rebounding battle that extremely and just whiffing on those easy opportunities around the rim because of the resistance of the defense and also just because of your own stubbornness. That ended up creating the difference in this game. And the Knicks would win 140-132. Pretty high scoring, to say the least. But, I mean, they controlled the offensive glass and they were able to get a major advantage in second chance point opportunities. It's also worth mentioning they had more overall shots and made more threes, although again, that wasn't exactly what this game ended up coming down to. But when you look at the numbers, man, Karl-Anthony Towns, even with the cooldown, finished with 39, 11, and 4 without a turnover, impressively enough, on 13 of 26, shooting with 6 threes. Landry fucking Shamet had fucking 36 points and 3 assists on 12 of 19 shooting with 6 threes as well. Like, what in the fuck is that? Landry Shamet, of all people, getting more than 35 points. Just think about how crazy that sounds for a second. I think they mentioned that his previous career high was somewhere in the 20s. He'd never had a game like this before. There's just, that is such an anomaly. And I'd be really surprised to see if he could keep that up. I don't expect it. But I guess anything is possible, right? Jordan Clarkson also had 24 points on 6 of 13 shooting with 3 threes off the bench. And Josh Hart, because of course he would, had a triple-double off the bench, which nobody's talked about. 12 points, 12 rebounds, and 10 assists for the man. All on 5 of 8 shooting. If Mikal Bridges, shot 6 of 21 from the field, why the hell would they give him a chance to shoot 21 shots in this game? I don't know. But it didn't end up mattering all that much. And Mitchell Robinson, by himself, had a offensive rebound. Insanity, man. Like, he is just a fucking beast in that aspect. He didn't score a point, but you know he's going to secure those rebounds. There's something to that, man. As for the Heat, Norm Powell had 38 points on 12 of 22 shooting with 8 threes himself. But it was far from enough. Jaime Jaquez Jr. off the bench, leading the second unit in 34 minutes, also had 23 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists on 9 of 20 shooting with a 3. Khalil Ware and Andrew Wiggins had 15 points, while Khalil Ware had a triple-double with 10 rebounds. 6 of 18 shooting for Andrew Wiggins as well as wild. And again, he caught himself in that rut as well, just putting up shot after shot at the rim and having it be heavily contested and forced. In short-arming them, having them just roll off the rim completely. And those are the kinds of gimme shots that you'd probably want back. But again, that's not something you can do in this sport. Davion Mitchell had 11 points and assists with 4 rebounds on 3 of 6 shooting and 2 threes. And Pamela Lawson had 14 points and 2 assists in 24 minutes and on 4 of 8 shooting. Not half bad. But man, would they have loved to have that in those situations where they just completely fizzle out. Man, unfortunate stuff for them. And hey, I mean, with the next game, the Spurs and the Warriors, okay? The Spurs and the Dubs, yeah. After seeing Landry Shamet go off and do that, and after recognizing that Stephen Curry in the game on Wednesday already had 46 points against this team, I had to sit there and say multiple times that Curry was damn sure going to go for 50 points in that game if Shamet's coming out here putting up 36 out of absolutely nowhere. For as good of a game as this would be advertised to be, both teams kind of struggled out of the gate. To be honest, the Spurs were getting themselves in situations. They just kept turning the ball over, man. Really solid Warriors defense all around from their starters. And it limited them a little bit. At the same rate, the Warriors, they could not hit their shots. They couldn't. Not enough to make the Spurs pay for those extra possessions. And it was just ground out defensively the entire way through this first quarter, to be honest with you. Even though Stephen Curry himself would account for 10 points in this period, it wasn't enough to vault the team into winning territory. It was definitely competitive. It was definitely a bit of a struggle, but it came down to Victor Wembanyama doing what Victor Wembanyama does and giving the Spurs a slight edge just as the clock was about to wind all the way down before the start of the second quarter. Man, Jimmy Butler III is such an interesting player. You start off this quarter with him drawing a foul and getting free throws. I think it was at this exact point of the game, too, where they say that he, as his career stands right now, or at least at the time of the game even, because, a few games have taken place, this number could have increased, but his percentage of points from free throws in his career happens to be the third highest mark in NBA history. And in the top 4, you have names out there like Paul Arizin and Moses Malone, for example. And it's just crazy to think that way. At this stage of his career, it would not really make sense to consider Jimmy Butler III to be a truly big person. He never really has been. The strength has been there somewhat for him, especially as a defender in his prime. Even if he didn't look the part the whole way, that is not a guy you wanted to fuck around with. And defensively, he still has that. But even without possessing that kind of frame, his skill to just get to the free throw line, no matter what, like he has it down to a science. Like, you'll defend him so well, but all it takes is one pump fake, one skill move, and he's got you exactly where he wants you to be. Or he's got you jumping in the air, biting on a shot, and drawing contact. It's crazy. And even with all that going on, it was not enough because the Spurs had taken a little bit of control here. They allowed Wembanyama to sit, and in came Luke Cornett. They were creating a little bit of distance. It's at that same point that Stephen Curry would just decide, all right, I'm going to have to find a way here and make something happen. And while he would continue his streak, it was actually Will Richard for a couple of these possessions here who served to be a spurring element of this Warriors team. He had recently been named the starter with some of the contributions that he had in a few other games leading up to this. And honestly, just his play in these situations. Is he the most talented guy? Not necessarily. In fact, when you look at his entire college career, he's not been a person that lights up the scoreboard, but he does all the little things so well. And on a team where there's strength in numbers, right? They have understood that, okay, this is a person we can start to rely on a little bit more. Not necessarily to take over the offense or anything, but play their role. And he definitely had some good defensive stretches in this game. He had a pair of three-point makes to give the Warriors a little more control for a split second of time in this game as well. And Stephen Curry, the three-point king himself, extended it briefly. But the Spurs were not going anywhere. De'Aaron Fox was also a player that had recently been returning for the Spurs in this one. And while he's not necessarily known to be a three-point shooter, with some of the stuff that he was pulling off, he went off for 5 points in this segment alone, and the Spurs would be down by 2 to end off the half. But as you would see later on in this game, especially down the stretch of this third quarter, crazy fucking third quarter, by the way, you can tell that Curry brand signing definitely helped him progress as a shooter, even if he did have a pretty below average year shooting from the three-point line last year. But maybe he's starting to learn. I don't know. So you get into this third quarter, and it's mostly the same. They are just trading shots back and forth. No one team's really able to create a whole bunch of distance. But the Spurs do at least try their absolute hardest. And at that point, the second that they made this happen, the Warriors decided to just put Stephen Curry back in the game, which they would not be privy to doing so early on. But I guess Steve Kerr felt as if he had no choice. He's generally an offense. Outside of pockets of this game, it really did feel like he was the only one, and Jimmy Butler III at times himself, generating offense. So, why not give yourself a leg up by putting in your most formidable scoring punch? It got weird because Stephen Curry would just go on an absolute heater. 3 after 3 after 3. Got a fucking and one, getting in Keldon Johnson's body, drawing contact, and getting the floater in for an additional free throw as well. And it didn't stop. The onslaught kept going. Because then he had to trade shot for shot for shot with the damn Spurs. Why? Again, even if this was for a split second, they kept on leaving Julian Champagnie open from deep for some reason. And this would happen just slightly in the fourth quarter as well. They mentioned that, okay, he's a solid catch and shoot guy. Why are you giving him the lane to catch and shoot, fire it, uncontested? Makes no sense. Then you have Stephen Curry respond there before De'Aaron Fox decides to get in on the action. Gary Payton II is playing great defense to prevent this speedy-ass dude from getting in the mid-range or slashing over to the rim, okay? He's got him completely guarded. He's trying to find different ways to break out of this contain, and he just decides, because the shot clock's winding down, to jump up and take a fucking three-point shot, and he makes the shot. Like, what kind of stuff is that? And yet, Stephen Curry still had a response in him, and it still wasn't enough because the Spurs would have a 2-point lead to end off this third quarter. Fourth quarter was fucking madness. Like I said, Champagnie opened it up, just getting great looks. And all of a sudden, they belt out to a 7-point lead. Oh boy. So, yeah, this whole thing was chaos. I'll put in the context here, okay? When Victor Wembanyama had been guarded by Draymond Green, going back to the previous game, I think he was 0 of 8 on his shots against him specifically, or with him as the nearest defender in that game. This game was no different. His efficiency was very low when Draymond Green was anywhere near him. And he had to consistently deal with the enforcer shit that Draymond gets on. Again, you have to play Wembanyama a certain way in order to stop him if you're going to go up against him one-on-one. You have to get physical with him. As physical as you possibly can. You can't allow him to walk you over to where exactly he'd like to operate from. You can't do that. You have to force that action yourself as a defender. And Draymond definitely was able to do that. He also added a little extra into it because, of course, it's Draymond Green. Wembanyama got sick of that shit gradually. It gradually got sick of that shit. I mean, even with a few of the actual plays that took place, Draymond Green ran through this man, truck sticked him on what would be ruled a charge, and then was able to get past him for a layup before Wembanyama managed to block him 2 times in one possession. They were just going at each other all night long. And before this play even takes place, they're jawing at each other the whole time. So what does Wembanyama do as soon as he gets up out of this hunched over stance? It's an out of bounds play, and he turns the fuck around. He barely has to jump for it, but Sochan throws the alley-oop pass from out of bounds. He catches that shit and dunks it over Jimmy Butler III and Draymond Green for the fucking foul. And even though this shit wouldn't stand, you gotta love the fact that he went right at Draymond. He went right at him, screamed in his fucking face, and started talking shit right back. Nothing really materialized from there, but they had to separate him. And I mean, man, it's just like, again, it didn't count, but what exactly can you do about a 7'5" man doing that shit? And while Draymond himself has definitely been known to be a menace, you do have to give Wembanyama credit for standing on his business and talking his shit. Because not everybody's going to do that. They'll act like they will, but nah. And more craziness would come from there. That was not it. Because although they were not that far away, the fouls, kind of the problem they had last year and the year before, they just started occurring left and right and left and right. Now, some of them were ticky-tack, I will admit. But overall, when you have that shit accumulating, that can be just so much of a hindrance to a team's potential success. And it got to a point where the Spurs were up by as much as 10 points in this. But when all else failed on this night, Stephen Curry went on his signature streak, just barreling threes from downtown, rifling fucking 2-pointers in, and then eventually getting other teammates involved. You know, that was going to be the struggle, and that is how the Warriors would fully come back from this. Yes, Steph is a one-man wrecking crew at times, but people fail to realize that he is one man, and it does take a team to win. While it took the others a while to show up, you had guys like Brandon Przemski and Gary Payton II with 2 threes help the Warriors get the lead back, and also make some pretty good defensive plays down the stretch as well. Now, there were a few buckets here where Victor Wembanyama was legitimately taking advantage of his height because, of course, he fucking should. But the Warriors seemed to have a response every time, even when it got to this case. Because there was a chance for the Warriors to tie this game far before they would eventually take the lead. Yet Moses Moody, as he's getting trapped, loses the ball. So that would lead to points and make it a 3-point ball game. But hey, they settled for simplicity. They got layups, easy layups at the rim to keep this thing as close as possible. And you also had Brandon Podziemski again on the defensive end. He does it all. Like, I don't know why people don't understand this about Brandon Podziemski. Like, when you see the box score with him, it's not going to tell you everything. It just isn't. He is too well-rounded of a player, man. Like, if you need him to, he can definitely shoot. He can definitely play make. As a defensive guard, oh my fucking goodness. Like, the man is too fucking good. It gets a clutch stop and a rebound here. Just solid defense on De'Aaron Fox to force the miss. And then eventually have Curry take the lead with free throws in the last few seconds of the game. And don't even get me started on the fucking charges that he manages to draw. Don't even get me started on that, bro. Like, ever since he's been in the league, the man knows how to take a fucking charge. And one of those would prove to be pivotal in this situation. Now, the Spurs weren't completely out of it after these free throws. I mean, they had a few seconds left to make something happen. And with Wembanyama being, he's not even an equalizer. He is a legitimate cheat code. With that at your disposal, you're thinking it would have been easy for the Spurs to involve him in some way. But instead, they trusted Fox. And, Clutch Player of the Year in 2023, the first year of the award. So that, from that standpoint, makes a shit ton of sense. And it almost worked. Like, yes, you're going to see that he missed a shot. But when you look at it in real time, it was so close to going in. Like, it got a tip off the front of the rim, okay? Or at least just slightly inside of it. And then it bounced up again and out to give the Warriors a 109-108 victory. I mean, think about that shit, right? Like, the fact that the Warriors won both of these games, and I wasn't even sure if they were going to have a chance at doing that. I was just thinking, hey, they'd split 1-1. They got the win on Wednesday, so I'm like, okay, but could they do it again? No, they did. It came down to the wire, but they absolutely did. The Spurs team is no fucking joke. They are having a tremendous season themselves as well, although, as I'll detail later on in other developments, the biggest injury that could have taken place might affect them for just a little bit of time. Just a little bit. As for the numbers here, though, Stephen Curry in this game, after putting up 46 on Wednesday, would have 49 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists on 16 of 26 shooting with 9 threes. And his game here would be the 44th with 40 or more points, giving him the second most games with that point total after 30, behind only Michael Jordan. And as I said in that moment, Yes, there's been a ton of questions surrounding whether or not he is truly the best point guard ever. Because even I would still say at points that it is Magic Johnson with the advantage over him. And I've been saying as well that, hey, if he gets one more championship, I'd probably be convinced to say that about him. Well, this puts everything into a different light. Because if he can do that in terms of getting another 40-point game, which he probably would be able to do, I'd say it right then, right there, that he would be the greatest point guard of all time. Like, yes, there's no disrespect to Magic Johnson here, but this is a man in Stephen Curry passing up a record of Michael Jordan's. Like, you gotta put some respect on that. You have to. There's no way that I could sit here and possibly obviate and omit that out of a potential discussion. That's just, there would be no room to do it. Jimmy Butler III had 21 points and 8 rebounds, along with a single assist and 2 steals. On 7 of 14 shooting, Brandon Pajemski and Will Richard had 10 points each, and Draymond Green and Gary Payton II had 6 points each. Neither of them shot particularly great, but Gary Payton II again hit the shots that mattered the most, and that's what it ended up coming down to. As for the Spurs, Victor Wembanyama had 26 points and 12 rebounds, along with 4 assists and 3 blocks. On 10 of 21 shooting. Those 3 blocks are great. I don't even know why I didn't mention that. Man, literally in the final 2 minutes, this man, to stop one of the other Warriors' possessions on which they tried to take the lead on, man, Jimmy Butler III tried to go up with that shit because he tried the no-looker pass in. Okay? You think at that point you've got Victor Wembanyama out of position. His reflexes are too fucking fast. You might think that he's out of position. He's never out of position for a block. And Jimmy Butler III got his shit swatted. He found out the hard way. All right? You can't do it. He is barreling slowly but surely into the highest ever streak of consecutive games with a block. He's not there yet, but every single game he gets at least one, it's inevitable that will probably be broken by him at some point. Stephon Castle had 13 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists on 4 of 6 shooting. De'Aaron Fox had 24 points and 10 assists, along with 3 steals. Damn. On 10 of 22 shooting, along with 4 threes. Champagny had 14 points with 4 threes off the bench. And Devin Vassell had 11 points and 2 assists and 2 steals on 4 of 10 shooting in this game. Just wow. Okay. Moving on to the action from Saturday that I watched on NBA TV. Starting out with the Grizzlies and the Cavs. Overall, I don't even know what to say. The Grizzlies have been on the lower end, and the Cavs have definitely had their struggles this season, but they're still in the upper echelon of the Eastern Conference themselves at this point. I think this game would kind of make you understand exactly why they've reached this point, even if the Grizzlies weren't at full strength. You see, Ja Morant did actually come out of this start of the first quarter looking pretty fine. Like, he had 7 quick points. The Grizzlies' offense was rolling somewhat whenever Jaren Jackson Jr. would actually man up and go to work in the post. Like, over the whole game, in fact, this man kept settling for just the weirdest shots imaginable. Granted, he might have been scared. He might have been scared to face off against Jared Allen in the reigning DPOY consistently from possession to possession in this game. And it looked like that a few times. Like, the man would be matched up against one of them, and in some cases, he would definitely take him to the paint and get his shots. But then at others, whether it was a combination of good defense or him just being scared and just putting up weak take after weak take, consistently settling for that would slow this Grizzlies offense down over time. But that was besides the point earlier on. They were rolling. Ja Morant wasn't just getting his own shots in here, but he was also doing a nice job of facilitating, funneling it down to the big men, and letting them go to work. But at essentially the halfway point, while the Grizzlies had a lead, and yes, even with the Cavs themselves just getting a lot of 3-pointers, like, for this man, Donovan Mitchell, to quite literally open up the game, chucking up a deep 3 and getting an and 1 on Jalen Wells, tells you a whole lot almost immediately. But again, even with that, Grizzlies had the advantage. Not for long, though. Although I didn't initially see what happened, they did pan over to a feed where Ja Morant was on the sideline getting checked out. Little did we know that he would not return to this game. And in fact, per news from Shams Charania earlier, Ja Morant is now set to be out for at least the next couple of weeks with a calf strain diagnosis. That's what this injury ended up being. Incredibly unfortunate for them in the short term, especially given all the stuff that has gone on around that franchise between Morant and Yazalo specifically, right? Maybe they were starting to figure it out in this game, and before they could even realize their full potential there, he's now out. But still, the Grizzlies had a ton of game in front of them. And it was going to be up to them to try to keep the momentum going and finish the deal. They would do that for a little bit. Even though you had Craig Porter Jr. and Cam Spencer go at it with each other. Certainly their time to ball. But in all seriousness, Santi Aldama came in and started hitting some pretty cool shots. And you also had Jaren Jackson Jr. and Zach Edey take a little bit of advantage when it came to getting these mismatches. Firing up threes if they needed to, banging down low in the paint if they needed to, whatever the game asked for at a given moment, and whatever the Cavs as a defense were allowing to give them. Now, you get into the second quarter here, and they actually started it out, the Cavs, with putting in Naquan Tomlin. Now, Tomlin is a player who had gotten a little bit of burn in garbage time last season. I saw him play at points in the Summer League, and he is an interesting player. They mention how contagious his energy is off the bench, and in spurts in the Summer League, you can see that come to light with the athleticism that man pulled off with his intensity on the glass and honestly just being a force in the restricted area, despite not really being a true big man. But that dynamic ability, even if I didn't necessarily understand it in the moment, would start to pay off for the Cavs in the long run. It just took a little bit of time. He got at a few points. And the team as a whole was still just lagging completely. There was a bit of a rut from both offenses, but eventually the Grizzlies started to take advantage of the boards. And once that happened, they were creating a good amount of separation in this game. The Cavs themselves would try to inch back in it, but before you knew it, this game got increased to a lead of 10 at a certain point in the second quarter, and with Lonzo Ball shockingly making a three-pointer. I didn't even see him make this one, by the way. They would have a 7-point lead at the end of the half. So far, so good without Ja Morant, I would suppose. They would continue imposing their will as a team in the third quarter. For most of the third quarter, at least to open it up. Now, they could not stop the Cavs and Donovan Mitchell from at least inching towards finding their stride as an offense. They just couldn't. But at the very least, you had Cedric Carrot getting a few buckets here, drawing a nice foul, and getting the lead back up to 9 for them before the Cavs started to get a little bit of a run going. Just a little bit. You had Evan Mobley started off, and then as soon as Dean Wade got this baseline drive, all of a sudden, bam, timeout, Grizzlies. They try to get some form of resistance going. And they would get the game back up to 9, but the Cavs would not go away easily. All it took from there, entering this fourth quarter, was just one brutal mistake or a brutal chain of mistakes for the Grizzlies and some red-hot shooting from the Cavs to get right back in this. And this is where you have to say that the Grizzlies should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. For one, biggest thing of all, before we even got into clutch time in this game, Yazalo called what would be his final timeout. Now, the Cavs at this point were already getting themselves back into the game and making it as close as it ever was in this game. Even though they hadn't had the lead since the first quarter, they were making this incredibly interesting. A little more than halfway through this, at the 5-minute and 54-second mark, essentially. That was their last timeout. And the run was already being made. And you had no way to stop it outside of relying on dead balls if you're Yazalo. What in the hell is that decision-making and management of timeouts? Also, too, maybe you need to change up certain things if a run is happening, of course. One such change could come in the form of the personnel that you have out on the floor. And guess what you can't do in those situations without timeouts and again, relying strictly on dead balls. You have to roll with the same group of guys that are actively giving this lead up the entire way through. And that would be the Grizzlies' undoing in this game. The run might have been inevitable from the Cavs, but bruh. By a point, in this fourth quarter, adding in everything that occurred after this final timeout, because they were just rolling as an offense. You had Donovan Mitchell go off for 14 points in this period alone, getting to the foul line, getting in the lanes as a slasher, opening up opportunities for other players. Evan Mobley taking his share of touches as well and making the most out of his opportunities. They went, the Cavs, also with Jarrett Allen getting in some action here, on an overall 32-12 run. 32-12. Technically 14, I should say. To close out the game. Like, what kind of shit? What kind of shit is that, man? Are we serious? They were not totally out of it, the Grizzlies. They just weren't. But when you give up a run as costly as that, and again, don't have the timeouts to mitigate any of this damage, that lost them the game right there. There's no more that I can really add to it. It is right there. The writing is on the wall the second that you make that decision. And that is one that Yazalo's certainly going to want back. At least now. Maybe he'll be thinking about it in the long run. Like, damn. This could have done a lot if this tension was that bad. You had a chance to go out there and show that you could last in a game without Ja Morant's services. Don't know how much that narrative would have really been put out there, but you could have ran with that. Ja Morant simply has not been playing great with the Grizzlies to start out the season. And again, the obvious sentiments and quotes and interviews with the media and post-game interviews and all that. Understood. You were winning this game, regardless of that, and winning it in fairly convincing fashion against one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. Even if runs of that sort don't happen all the time, the fact that you still allowed that to happen is a problem and an indictment on you specifically. Players have to go out there and execute. But at the same time, if they're not executing, at least have some fucking timeouts in your back pocket or manage them better to where you do in order to just halt everything. Slow it down and adjust in real time. Rather than force them to just be cast out into the fire and continue to try to put out something that the Cavs were completely acing at this point. They had complete control. And you could not prevent them at all by at least stopping it in that moment. It was horrible. To move on to the numbers, Donovan Mitchell had 30 points, 5 assists, and 5 rebounds, along with 2 steals on 10 of 21 shooting with 4 threes. Evan Mobley had 22 points and 13 rebounds, along with 4 assists and blocks on 7 of 16 shooting with 3 threes. Jarrett Allen had 16 points and 6 rebounds on 5 of 8 shooting, and Sam Merrill had 13 points and 4 rebounds on 5 of 9 shooting with 2 threes. Lonzo Ball, shockingly enough, added 9 points and 5 assists off the bench with 3 threes. You couldn't tell. You could not tell that happened. As for the Grizzlies, though, just tough. Still, though, even with that being said, and even with you wanting to trust Jaren Jackson Jr. more in this situation, admittedly, without the presence of a true ball handler at all. They did try to do this for Cam Spencer at points, but when it comes to who they had out there at the moment, between the Washington State duo in Wells and Coward, and then Edey and Jackson Jr., nobody else on their bench is going to be able to handle the ball in playmaking responsibilities in the same way that Ja Morant could. Even if it has not been the most efficient this season. Now, Scottie Pippen Jr. would technically be that guy, and he's injured. So you just got a cluttered mess at points in this game. And you got an over-reliance on Jaren Jackson Jr. Yes, he's a good player, good defender, but when I look and I see that this man had 26 points and 5 rebounds, for one, that's the thing too. I guess that's always kind of been a thing of his. You should be able to pull far more rebounds than that. Far more rebounds than that. As a true big man. Aldama doing this off the bench is one thing. Having the rookie and Cedric Coward out-rebound you is another thing entirely. But that's a different story. When it comes to the shooting, 6 of 23 from the field, 2 of 8 from 3, and 12 of 14 free throws at the foul line. Stop shooting. Just stop shooting. Please stop shooting. That kind of contributed to that run too. All of his shots, all of his missed shots did not come in that period, no. But why was it that the man could not get a bucket to save his life in this period? And that kind of crept into the mentality of the whole team as well. Because for one reason or another, they could not close this game out. After having that much control that early on in the fourth quarter. Yes, it's a game of runs. But you still got to be able to have some complementary play down the stretch of these games. They failed to do that. Zach Edey had 13 points and 7 rebounds. On 3 of 7 shooting, Santi Aldama had 12 points and 11 rebounds along with 2 assists. On 5 of 9 shooting with 2 threes. And Cedric Coward had 10 points and 8 rebounds. On 3 of 8 shooting with 2 threes as well. Seriously. Cedric Coward's been a solid rookie to start out this year. He's known for his defense as a wing coming out of Washington State. He's actually put together a few solid games at this point. Can he rebound? Sure, yes. Again, why the fuck, as a starter, is he out-rebounding Jaren Jackson Jr.? That is just, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but, what? How? And then for the game action, oh boy. This game right here could have been interesting, but the fact that the Lakers could have Bronny James Jr. start this game while LeBron at this point is still in the G League, just getting his body right, getting the reps in to eventually return. They could roll out that lineup and still carve up the Bucks like this. Is a damn shame. A damn shame. Giannis is Giannis. Let's establish this. The man in the NBA Cup against the Hornets literally had 21 points and 18 rebounds by himself. Oh, no, scratch the rebounds. Assists, my bad. By himself. He is such a threat in the paint that they would rather try to build this wall in the restricted area and open up the lane for other shooters to do their damage or allow potential fake outs in cuts inside the three-point line for a few mid-range looks at times. Or give other lazy defenders enough of a diversion and distraction to attract offense into a certain area of the court at the time. That is the Giannis effect in a nutshell. That's what he does. And that didn't completely change to start out the game. But the second that they were able to force misses and force other people on the team to start handling playmaking responsibilities, it became a quick problem. And the Lakers, they were doing fine. It's Luka Doncic. It's Austin Reeves. And DeAndre Ayton actually was not doing too bad in this one. They were rolling. They also got some good backup play from Jackson Hayes and Dalton Connect in this quarter as well to continue to give the Lakers an advantage. It got so crazy early on that they actually decided to roll out not only Maxi Kleber, but the rookie on Arkansas in Adu Thoreau. And I don't believe that he finished the game doing much of anything. Outside of, he did get a bucket, and I did see him draw a foul to get a pair of free throws. Would have been interesting to see him get the ball more down the stretch to showcase his ability just a little bit more. And with what the Lakers were continuing to do at this point, they had ample time to give Thoreau PT. Even with me putting this in the notes, and even if you are a more passive basketball watcher, even one in that situation could tell you that it would go bad for the Bucks whenever number 34 steps out of the game. Now, granted, some of that is his own fault. He did get into foul trouble early on. And it was already bad by the time he stepped out. Like, they already had a lead of greater than 10 points. So it's not like the Bucks were in the best position to win anyways. But, hey, maybe with that change, maybe with a bench player coming in, we could get a little bit of a spark going. That would never happen. That would never happen. Okay. So, even with him starting alongside him the whole way, it's just worth mentioning this right now. One, to keep it on a serious note, outside of Ryan Rollins occasionally being able to make something happen, when you look at who's out on the floor for the Bucks at this point, they're all naturally going to struggle without Giannis being out there. Naturally. Like Kuzma, Green, Turner, Gary Harris in 2025 and Ryan Rollins. Harris had a few shots early on going for him. That was pretty cool. But genuinely, when it comes to being able to generate their own looks, outside of Ryan Rollins occasionally this season, nobody else is going to be able to do that. And every single one of these players has had their inconsistencies in their careers. Now, Rollins has not ever really had the largest role ever, and same for AJ Green. But you'd know they'd be susceptible to cold streaks. Same goes for Gary Harris. And Kyle Kuzma, he sucks. He is trash. When I saw that this man in the Hornets game had 29 points, I was like, there's no way he does that again. He didn't even come close. In fact, when you looked at the end of this game, all you got to know is that the man had more fouls than points. And the Lakers were licking their chops, especially Luka Doncic, when they were able to get him on an assignment. Continued to draw fouls on the man. He also did not have a single field goal in this game. That could only mean one thing. Dealing with that kind of BS and having DeAndre Ayton go crazy over the rim, having Luka Doncic dictate the game by himself. Play faster, Luka. Play faster. No, that's not what he's going to do. He sees the whole floor, and he understands the game enough at this point to where he's legitimately going to break your will in the way that he knows how to. What you going to do to stop it? Austin Reeves continuing to be the scoring punch as well, would literally get in the final bucket of the half. And they would hold a 31-point lead at this point. At that point, I'm like, okay, I'm going to continue watching this game to see what happens. Because wilder things have happened. And to think that the Lakers were doing this to the Bucks after they got done like this against the Thunder, wild to see. But I from that point on, after I saw that they belted out to that lead, after putting on what would be a 23-2 and then a 27-4 run overall to end off that first half, I wasn't taking any more notes on this. Only other things that I added just came sparsely. For instance, you had Luka Doncic draw a charge on Giannis. Of all people. And they say that man can't play defense. He felt that shit too. He was wincing in pain. Because he was feeling enough of it already in terms of the physicality. Then you had his head bang up against his own guy's leg. Definitely don't want to see that, but he would end up getting back up and being all right. And as I kept on saying, I mean, the Bucks would have a 7-0 run at a point. They would have little spurts where they try to make this game incredibly close. But they gave up that tremendous run and virtually never regained control in this game. Were never able to overcome that. Even when it looked like for a brief moment they could, Austin Reeves ripped their hearts out. And Luka Doncic put them to sleep. But hey, at the very least, you had Mark Sears get a couple of buckets as well. The rookie out of Alabama and Ohio. There we go. But yeah, overall, Lakers won 119-95. Jeez, man. Luka Doncic had 41 points in this game. 9 rebounds, 6 assists, a steal, and 2 blocks. On 9 of 19 shooting. 5 threes. Licking his chops every single time he got near the painted area. Okay? 18 of 20 from the free throw line. You can only hope to contain a legitimate offensive juggernaut like that. And the Bucks were just not able to. The fact that they allowed that man to tie a season high, eventually with 45 points against them last season in one of their later matchups towards the tail end of the season. He did that already to them, and you didn't learn your lesson then? Okay. Austin Reeves had 25 points, 8 assists, and 6 rebounds on 9 of 17, shooting with 5 threes. And DeAndre Ayton himself had 20 points and 10 rebounds. As for the Bucks, no, it didn't help that Giannis got in foul trouble early. But again, even with him doing what he was able to do towards the tail end of it, he is only one individual. 32 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists. 9 of 15 shooting ain't even that bad. It's just, man, they stood no chance at a certain point in this one. AJ Green had 15 points on 5 threes. Gary Trent Jr. had 13 points and an assist. True microwave scorer, bench warmer, on 5 of 12 shooting with 3 threes. Jeez, man. This man, Kyle Kuzma, bro. After putting up 29 points against the Hornets in the NBA Cup game, he rolled out there for 20 minutes and had a single point. A single point in 5 fouls. It's like, what in the world is that about? I mean, this is the same man who legitimately played over 20 minutes in a playoff game and didn't do jack shit, okay? Man, look. What made the Bucks think? This is something that you still have to ask yourself. Like, what made the Bucks think that was the move? That was the move that could get them closer to contending for a title? They think he was going to turn into PJ Washington Jr. or something? Yeah, that's the fact that I can even sit here and say that is crazy. It's not even like PJ Washington Jr. is the craziest player in the world himself. But at least with him, you know that you're going to get something out of him, even if he's not scoring all that well or efficiently or at all. PJ Washington Jr. himself has had games with no points before. And you know what? The man still commits to playing fucking defense and putting it all out there on the line for his teammates. What the fuck is Kyle Kuzma doing out there? What is he doing? We don't even know. Maybe he doesn't even know. It's ridiculous. But that'll do it for all the game action that I watched. To get into a few other developments here, I probably should have addressed earlier in the early one, but you know what? It's fine all the same. Okay, so AD is set to miss at least the next week with a calf strain injury. They reevaluated him at that checkpoint, and he still wasn't deemed as ready to return yet. Hopefully, they don't have to miss him for too much more time, though. All right. Earlier today, Cade Cunningham would sign a 6-year deal with the Nike brand. And he, as terms of the contract, would also stay per Shams Charania. All these reports are from him. He will also have a signature shoe with the company. And man, it says a lot. In a lighter matter about it, from the perspective of just humoring it. Do you know how crazy it is to have this man get that kind of security outside of the NBA? The very week to the day that he shot fucking 45 field goal attempts and missed 31 against the Wizards last Monday, en route to a 46-point triple-double in a double overtime win against Washington. Insane work to think about it from that perspective. We always talk about the Mamba mentality. Man, that motherfucker was firing all game long. He don't give a fuck about people saying how inefficient he is around the rim as a finisher or how many metrics will put that shit on display. All right, he don't care. He's still gonna do what he has to do. No matter how many mid-range shots he took, he kept on firing. No matter how many three-pointers he ended up missing. After a while, he stopped shooting those. But god damn it, the theme is the same. Truly a relentless performance of historical proportions. I mean, literally, the most missed field goals in a game for any player since Rick Barry in 1967. It is wild if any other player was ever to have a game like that. Cade Cunningham is obviously a number one pick in the face of a franchise. So, different situation altogether. He's got the talent as well, truly. But you'd be cut off the team. You'd be benched immediately. You are typically discouraged from ever taking that many shots and missing that many shots in a game. Clearly not Cade Cunningham. Was not too much for him at all. But in all seriousness, when you sit down and you think about it deeper than even a few minutes, it is something that's really all coming together for Cade Cunningham at this point. Like I said, he's not necessarily reached rookie supermax contract extension territory just yet, but you have to think he'd probably get that. In terms of other endorsements outside the NBA, though, we're dealing with Nike here. Like, that is huge for the man. And definitely could pay off for him down the line in terms of acquiring a bit of generational wealth in that aspect of his life. He already has a child, if I'm not mistaken. So you're just adding even more to that potential lifestyle growing up. That's monumental stuff for him. The team as well. It's kind of a good thing for them as well. And also on a personal level. I guess I should address the personal level first. So much have I heard about guys like him and Paolo Banchero being number one picks and face of the franchise caliber players that don't necessarily get a ton of attention because of how their teams are. And I mean, you saw that even when Cade Cunningham got his All-Star selection last season. There were still cases where it's like he's just simply not being brought up in certain discussions because he's a Detroit Piston. And they genuinely don't get a ton of coverage. And in years past, it's not hard to see why that happened. But clearly, with us not watching a ton of Pistons basketball like that, we missed out on progression before our very eyes. And this team is looking special. You have Cade Cunningham ascending into a potential superstar all his own, rather. The team is currently the best in the Eastern Conference as of the recording of this video. Just legitimately nearly 2 years after going through one of the worst stretches in regular season play ever for any NBA team in history. Okay? Everything is on the rise for them. Everything. And, you know, if they can get certain things figured out, they may not be slowing down, per se. I'm not going to blow the whistle on it early and say that, oh, they absolutely won't. Any random thing can go down from there. But if you're Nike, man, you're in this the whole way, dude. Because when you have a deal gone down like this, and again, typically with other athletes, or just any sort of campaign for any person or group of people out there, you are projecting on his appeal and his potential to improve his name over time, make his name a global one that those around the world recognize. And while he's doing that on the court, Nike would also be handling that through marketing and things of that nature. Obviously, the exposure with wearing a signature shoe would help as well. So, they seem to have a belief that, hey, this Cade Cunningham guy can prove to be very legit. And a name of the brand that people will want to flock towards for years to come. Now, maybe not to the same extent of those guys who've had lifetime deals before. He might not have reset status yet, but that's okay. It's the true underdog story if you're looking at it from the whole team perspective, man. Truly. Nobody was expecting this team to take the jump that they did last year from complete and total dumpster fire territory. Yet they did it. Yet they took the Knicks to 6 games in the playoffs last year. Yet they're off to this start this season as the best team, hands down, in the Eastern Conference. So yes, potential again, buzzword. Ooh, that's everything. They're here right now. And Nike is trying to make sure that this remains the case for a prolonged period of time with them signing a 6-year deal. The sky is truly the limit from there. It'll be interesting to see what this signature shoe looks like. But Cunningham can no longer say, or I guess people can no longer try to disrespect his prowess as a number 1 pick and a true superstar. He's got at least one of these things down right now. At least one of these things. I mean, hell, the man is averaging a damn near 27.5 point double-double with assists this season. Now, yes, 3-point efficiency could definitely, yeah. But seriously, he's a great player. And this is something that is well-deserved. It's definitely going to, again, get his name around even more than it already was. You want to talk about potential faces of the league? You can't discount Cade Cunningham from that list now. You can't. And you can't discredit this Pistons team in their ascent as a collective. Yeah, people had their doubts for sure. Because again, now you have a group of people that are at least hoping and somewhat expecting that you retain that level of excellence. They're doing that in change right now. And they ain't going anywhere. It's all up in the air right now. But man, for them projecting where things could go, it's smart. And again, credit to Cade Cunningham for getting it. Like I said, signature shoes, for some people, take months and years to develop, craft, and distribute. But, if it ends up being a good shoe, you're not going to have the ability to stop people from going out and getting the product. That's the point of that. Masterful stuff from Cade Cunningham. Victor Wembanyama is set to miss at least the next few weeks with a calf strain. Probably suffered at least some time after the game against the Warriors and before their last matchup. I'm not exactly sure how it happened. But it is highly unfortunate for a man that is putting up career highs all across the board right now and having a legitimate MVP caliber season. But, again, you don't want a repeat of last season. Now, again, you can't game plan for deep vein thrombosis. That's something completely out of the ballpark. But you don't want to continue having him miss an extensive amount of time. You want him to be as healthy as he can before he steps on the court. That's always the goal here. So, gotta take out the time, do what it is he can do to rest up and get better from there. And Derrick Jones Jr. is set to miss at least the next 6 weeks after spraining his MCL. He also had a career high in points per game before this. It sucks. No, basketball is not everything in that situation. Similar thing there. You want him to get his proper rest and recovery. But the Clippers, from their perspective, do still have games to play. And it leaves them incredibly thin at a small forward position now. Like, Jordan Miller is an okay player, but he's definitely not going to be as reliable as Derrick Jones Jr. in that spot. And then, of course, you still don't have Kawhi at this point. Bogdanovich, in some cases, might also have to slide up. But even then, yeah, that could get a little tricky. So they're going to have to figure that out. But that'll do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.